Welcome to Power Talks with Santosh Shah. In today's episode, we have with us Honorable Neel Kantha Uprety, the Chief Election Commissioner of Nepal. The Election Commission is the backbone of a country's democracy. Since a century now, the people of Nepal have strived to establish democracy and have succeeded in doing so. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Santosh.
We had just ended the decade-long conflict. The monarchy had become less powerful or powerless at that point. The old parliament was revived and the interim constitution had just been written. So many interesting components that we had at that time. Now there's so many countries in the world who are going through one of these issues. Now cannot we take the success story and provide it to the countries facing these problems?
You have asked very important questions. I think this is the lesson that others can learn from us. I think democracy cannot be imported. It has to be germinated and it has to be grown up, or it has to be, manured, and it has to be, protected within the country. And Nepal has shown the world that we could do on our own the peace process we have taken up, the seven-party alliance and the Maoist agreements, and the priority of holding elections. And before the interim constitutions, the political parties, the seven-party alliance and the Maoist, agreed to constitute election commission. Before the constitution was in place, that was historical indeed. So
very strong move.
Yeah, it was. And so many things happened. You said very correctly. And King was relegated, and we were restating the parliament, and also we were preparing for election before the constitution. And the election was given highest priority since the final and the most important objective of the peace process or the political process was to have the new constitution written by the people. That was the main dividend that people were looking forward to receive from themselves. So that was the reason I think we could do that together.
Your office has held elections in the past over decades, but this particular one brought a U-turn in the political components or the directions that the politics was heading in the past. The monarchy was abolished peacefully and the country was declared a republic. The new president was elected. So did you feel at the time when you were holding the elections that this particular election was going to bring such a huge development in Nepal's modern history?
I think it has changed a lot. I think we have converted Nepal into some different country. Not in the sense that we are different geographically, we are different from historically or religiously. We are different from democratically, and we are different from the process of development, democratic development, and the changes that has taken place. And the changes, they are established after the re-establishment of parliaments and after the Constituent Assembly election. They are historical. They are yet to be fully and functionally established though, but then we have had a very big changes. And that changes certainly needs more attention of the major stakeholders for institutionalization and moving ahead with. I think that is what important thing we have had. And we were waiting for major things for so many years. That certainly has contributed that we were trying to reach to the destination. And the destination was the announcement of Nepal Democratic Republic. It was important. And we must be very glad, not only glad, proud of that Nepal had a head of states elected by the people themselves, from the people themselves, which is very important thing for Nepalese people in the history of Nepal. So we created history.
The results of the first year of the Constitution Assembly is really noteworthy. But if we look at the second year, it does not meet the people's aspiration, as the CA members failed to deliver the constitution on time, and rather they even extended it 2 times. How long can the CA members continue extending their own tenure because they hold the voting rights?
I couldn't see anything except one Constituent Assembly elections in the history of Nepal. We should be able to produce the member of Constituent Assembly who should be writing constitution for the people of this country and giving to the people. They are the representative of the people. That is what I can understand. And one thing I should mention without shying away, and is that we were overly, I should say, unrealistically optimistic
And ambitious as well.
Ambitious as well, to set time for writing constitution. We were encouraged because of the peace process. We were driving on our own, was successfully moving ahead, and we were excited. And we thought that 2 years will be more than sufficient to write new constitution in the environment we were in. And that was, I think, unrealistic. And that may have had the problem in thinking of the time frame for writing constitution in the first place. So the extension of the CA for until the new constitution comes, it is completely the right of the CA members and also the provision of the constitution.
The people are getting impatient and they're getting very frustrated. There is a lot of anger mounting in the general population of the country. If there is a third extension, I fear that people may resort to streets, maybe even in a violent way. But in that scenario, cannot any permanent body in the governance, like the President's office or the Supreme Court or your office, the Election Commission itself, intervene before that happens and prevent a huge catastrophe?
Let me tell about my commission. The Election Commission of Nepal doesn't possess the prerogative of taking or intervening the situation. We are responsible constitutional body for making credible elections in this country. We are ready for that. Any election that comes tomorrow, we are preparing for that. With regards to checking or intervening in the process of writing constitution by some other constitutional body, it is, I think, not my area of comments. I should not be speaking on that particularly because I, being a head of constitutional body of the constitution, and I have my own restrictions, so Santosh Babu, I cannot say whether it has to be led to that direction or we have to wait until we write a new constitution and extend the time frame of the CA.
So let's say the next election, the general election, will take place after the constitution is drafted. So what is the timeline that Election Commission is preparing in mind that the election could take place as part of your preparations?
You remember that last time we were so much optimistic and also unrealistically optimistic to have an election done in 6 months. Then we had to postpone it. And we did not only postpone once, we postponed it twice, right?
Yes.
And we took 18 months time to prepare and conduct Constituent Assembly election in Nepal.
And it's a lot of work considering all the mountainous regions we have.
Yeah. And we are not very easy country from the point of view of geography. And we are not very easy country from the point of view of literacy. We are not very easy country from the point of view of practicing electoral systems.
Yes.
In the CA elections, we had a new electoral systems, which was difficult for the people to understand, for the political party to exercise. And we had so much of difficulty in extending the education and bringing awareness in the people and the political parties to exercise the electoral system in Nepal. I am worried about what electoral system will be adopted by the political parties or CA in the new constitution, and how many months it will take for us to prepare the electoral legal framework, because without that we cannot conduct election. And thirdly, election needs fundamental 4 elements. One is the voters. electoral roll. That should be credible, that should be trustworthy, that should encompass each voters, each eligible voter of this country. Second, we should have political parties and parties registered for election contest. Third, we should have legal framework. There can be a half a dozen of laws or legislation need to be passed by the parliament, and there will be more than half a dozen of bylaws and directives that need to be prepared. And fourthly, we need to buy and import and prepare for election from aeroplane to the needle for the polling center. So these four major items preparation. And we should not forget that new constitution will maybe bring new states, that's federal states, delineating the new constituencies for new election and what electoral system will be. All these things are still in hibernation, still in not answered basically. So I cannot really say, with the experience of the past, I can say that after the promulgation of Constitution, if we are very fast enough, we will be able to conduct election within a year's time. That is what I can say.
2012.
So, faster the Constitution, faster the elections, and faster the government in place, and we will be logically concluding the peace process then.
Current 2011 census, which is happening right now, could be also one of the very important component, as this census is expected to bring a lot of unseen components in the population of the country and a lot of issues and data that was not in the past, because a lot has changed in last 10 years.
Right.
And how are you looking at incorporating this upcoming new data into the electoral system?
Election Commission particularly create its own database for the voters, because this is our mandate. This is mandatory for the Election Commission to create its own database for election, particularly of voters. That we are doing now. Regarding the census data is taken for delineating constituency. Census is taken in every 10 years. It's a decennial, right? And without census data, the delineation cannot take place. Delineating constituency for election. I think Election Commission or the Commission for Delineating Constituency will be using data of the result of the census, and on the basis of the data of the census, the constituency will be delineated and will be conducting election in those constituencies. Apart from that, the results of the statistics or Central Bureau of Statistics, the population census, will not be so much in use in the electoral process, except comparing the age group and the, looking at it. But then one sensitive issue you raise with regard to the population census is, from the last 15 years, I should say now, we are more sensitized. We are more sensitized ethnically,
Yes.
And linguistically, geographically. So the results of the census certainly will reflect the results of the people who are so sensitized. So it will definitely demand, and the people will demand the right of being represented in the government systems with the proper electoral systems in proportional way, which may be a right of the people of this country. But I am not dealing these questions from the Election Commission side.
We have 28 political parties in the Constitution Assembly right now, and in the last few years we have 78 political parties registered with your office, the Election Commission. Isn't it too many parties for you to deal with and your office to deal with, and also even for the voters to get confused in the next election with 78 different political parties to choose from?
Every election, before every election, we invite political party to register for contesting election. That is the standard norms. Every before every election, we invite them to register. So last elections, we invited political party to register to contest the Constituent Assembly election. We registered 74 political parties. Then in the election, only 54 contested, and 25 of them were represented in the Constituent Assembly. Because of the split in the Constituent Assembly or outside of Assembly, we have increased the representation of the party in the Constituent Assembly by 4 already, and that makes the total number of political parties in this country 78. I think in a couple of days' time we will be having one more party registered in the Election Commission, which will make 79. You are correct. The more the political parties, the greater is the problem in managing the political party, not only political parties, because we have to provide resources, we have to make sure that the people understand what political party is, who is doing what, and what is the political party all about, and who should get select or elect for, and all these things. Not only that, the resource will be used, more resource will be required to manage. And we do not manage political party entirely, but then we are also custodian to see whether political parties are behaving according to the norms, according to the laws and orders and law and the code of conduct. So we have to have their records in the Election Commission, and we will have to have their names and their symbols in the electoral ballot paper or whatever things that we are using. So in that sense, the more the political parties, the greater is the cost and the greater is the complexity for the people to understand it is a problem. But then new and growing democracy, it is a characteristic of this.
Face this kind of problem.
Problem, yes. And also one thing I like to mention here, the electoral system also sometimes encouraged to have more political parties, or sometimes the electoral system, if the other electoral system is there, then parties would like to merge together and become one, then being many. That is there. So depending upon what electoral system we are going to use, that also contributes in proliferation of political parties, or combining or joining together or making few number of political parties.
In either cases, security is going to be a huge issue that Election Commission will have to deal with in the next election. And how are you planning to prepare for that?
Every election in the new democracy, growing democracy, young democracy, there is a questions of security. I would like to see that elections is managed by the people themselves. People, the voters, the civil society, the political parties sitting together, if they decide to manage polling center themselves, that would be best election that one country can hold. Nepal would like to see that happening, but then that may not be possible in the near future, because we are still learning. And
it's a new democracy.
New democracy, and the culture of democracy and the norms and values of democracy is yet to be understood, registered in the mind of the cadres of the political parties and also civil society, including the people in general. So it will certainly require the security apparatus and the personnel to be deployed in the polling centers. We have 10,000 polling locations, and we have to deploy the security. But then the biggest security is the voters themselves, the political parties, combination of political parties themselves, and civil society and the observers, national, international themselves, is the biggest security that can be relied on for better election in any election in the past, even in the future. But then security will be there, available security will be deployed. The questions, of course, you may like to ask, how do you
prepare the people?
Prepare the people.
Yeah. It's a nice concept. It's a beautiful concept that we involve the people to take care of the security, because it's their vote. It's a great privilege that they can choose their own leader.
Right.
Now, how do we prepare them? How do we make them aware, given we have very strong cultural norms, we have high level of illiteracy, and not to mention the remote constituencies we have in the country. So what are the challenges and opportunities, and how do you plan to prepare them?
I think this is a continuous process. As you have mentioned, that we are a country not only difficult from geographically, we are difficult from literacy wise, and also we have to manage a complicated electoral system which has to be understood by the people, by the voters, by the political parties. So Election Commission has a policy of continuously conducting voters' education and civic education. We ourselves cannot do everything. We have been choosing partners or working together with the civil society and also international development partners to work in the area of voters' education. You mentioned that ours is a very much mixed society, and we are still in very much primitive state in some part of the country, and religiously we are sometimes fundamentalist. Yes. And religiously.
Women are given less space.
That's right. And some women cannot even address their husband's name and cannot call their husband with their name.
Which is mandatory when they go to voting.
Yeah, and that is required for them to tell to our people when we are taking photographs or registering them. This is also still there. So there are a lot of challenges. Illiteracy is one of the biggest challenges. And
which is going to take a long time to solve.
And it is not overnight, kind of speed or overnight completion or success issue. It will take a long time. And we have 75 district offices. We have a strategy of creating voters' education materials in all languages spoken, mostly spoken like 17, 18 languages. And we use the materials, and we use all the electronic media, FM and community radios and all these things. And we also prepare posters and pamphlets and all visible portrait, and so that people can understand what is going on. And for the voting purpose, for voter registration, we have to do one type of education. And when it comes to the voting, it comes to the electoral system, then we have to change that education materials and work for the education, countrywide education again. So we have been doing that with the deployment of thousands of our employees in the village. Even we are sending, during the time of election, we send women and men appear together to each house to tell the people what they need to do, where they need to go, and how they should be casting their votes. But then we don't say who they should cast vote.
That's for them to decide.
Yeah.
Honorable Commissioner, I wish you good luck with your preparations for the next election. It was wonderful having you on Power Talks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us. We'll be back next week, the same time. Until then, good luck and goodbye.